Welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, the only show that provides you with the best insight and information to everything Franklin County sports. And now here's your host, Bobby C.
Well, hello and welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. I want to welcome you here today. First of all, I just want to say I hope everyone's doing well this week. I know it's been a very, very long year. And the one thing I can say is since March, this is the first time that I've had a chance to be able to be in studio. You know, losing our spring sports season and, of course, everything that went on during the summer. The only thing that we could do is to be able to do some of our updates outside. But we decided that today, because we're starting to get into some interviews, that we thought it would be nice if we could be able to do it in studio. And I will say that I have two coaches here that are involved with the Mantle team from Mohawk, and they had a very good season this year. And the other thing is, too, is we get a chance to talk to a couple of guys who were very fortunate to be able to coach some kind of athletic sport this summer. And we're going to talk with Tucker and John in just a moment, but I want to say a big thank you to our sponsors here today. Albert Hearing Services, Lisa Albert of Albert Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield at alberthearing.com. Also by the Four Leaf Clover Restaurant. They are located right there in Berniston on routes 5 and 10. Check out their Facebook page for their hours. And also Denny's Pantry. Denny's Pantry open 7 days a week right there on Berniston Road in Greenfield. Don't forget that you can enjoy outdoor and indoor dining plus pickup at Denny's Pantry. All right, let's get right to it here. Gentlemen, how are you both? John?
Good, Bob. How are you?
Good. Tucker? How you doing, guys? Well, listen, you guys were one of the lucky people that got to be able to be a part of summer sports this year. And, you know, we lost, as you know, Mohawk couldn't have any Little League, and we lost Greenfield Minor League and the Girls Softball League, and all these local kids had nowhere to go. But you guys were able to get together with your league and a couple of other leagues that were out there for the older kids that were still able to play. So let's talk a little bit about how things sort of rolled out in the beginning here, John, for your league in Mantle.
It was kind of a slow start, you know. I mean, actually we have one of our coaches that has like a batting cage out in his backyard, and you know, when everything started, it was kind of like small groups over there hitting off his pitching machine and, you know, waiting to see whether or not we were even gonna have a league. And you know, Artie Burke, who runs the Pioneer Valley Youth Baseball League, you know, worked pretty diligently in the beginning to get a lot of things lined up. And, you know, finally probably the beginning of July, I think, is before we could get all the Board of Healths and everything online. And then, of course, with Governor Baker, you know, pushing the phases, you know, we were finally able to get going. So it was questionable to begin with. So.
You know, the one thing I did notice, and Tucker, you'll be able to answer this, is the kids. What was going through their minds knowing that in June they had the opportunity to be able to play, knowing that the governor was going to make that decision, and then, of course, they ended up moving it into July? What kind of feeling was it from the kids about whether they thought they were going to be able to play in the time that they've already put in, knowing that it might not happen?
It was tough for the kids, and we found a lot of kids who were ready to go, were hitting regularly, working hard, getting on throwing programs, and then all of a sudden we kind of let them know what's going on. And you saw a lot of kids kind of regress a little bit into realizing, okay, now I got to look for summer employment. I'm not going to have the regular baseball schedule. And that made it difficult as coaches, too, to establish numbers. One thing that John and I racked our brains about a lot is kids would commit, and then they'd hear, and their parents would say, well, you know, with all the uncertainty, we're not sure if we'll allow you to play. So that made it difficult. But for the kids, it was hard. And I think towards the end of the season, looking back at it now, for the kids, it was great. I mean, every kid's morale was great. There was a lot of positive energy and just happy to be out on the field, whether they were playing consistently or not, just getting the reps, I think, were really important for them.
You know what I thought was really cool is I thought it was great that on the first couple of games, and I happened to see that the recorder went up, all the guys were all, you know, social distanced up against the fence. They had their masks on, and they really were following the protocol that needed to be followed. So to me, You guys did a really good job on making sure that the kids knew that this is how we're going to have to do this. Otherwise, they could shut us down.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we ran into difficulties like even, nearing the end of the season because, we had the team for Brattleboro that came into the league this year. And of course, with Hampden County, with Northampton and Hatfield, Brattleboro wasn't allowed to go to Northampton to play. Northampton wasn't allowed to go to Brattleboro to play because of their own regulations up there. So, we ran into two different states, and it really, Mohawk ended up getting used for a neutral site game between Brattleboro and Northampton at one point. So, it's like, and there was all kinds of discussion as far as using Mohawk for a lot of the, the
neutral site games.
Neutral site games. So.
Yeah. Now, I noticed that you guys ended up sort of having a little bit of a good start. Then you had a little skid. Then you started back up again, and then near the end, it got a little shaky at the end. But you guys, honestly, were right in it. I mean, I think it was an upset of Brattleboro over Frontier that got you guys you guys at one time, was it a tie for first place with them?
Yeah.
And then the next night, Brattleboro got you?
Yes.
Was that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just trying to read back in my mind of when I was checking this out. But it sounded like it was quite it was looking pretty good. But this Brattleboro team, which really started off really slow, they started to play some really good baseball near the end and sort of played spoiler.
Well, they did. I mean, they beat us in the opening round of the playoffs. I mean, we were the 2 seed. They actually were the 4 seed. Because Frontier, being the 1 seed, would have gotten the bye, but we ended up agreeing to play Brattleboro just because logistically, because of the COVID, it was, logistically speaking, Brattleboro came to us rather than having to go to Hatfield.
Correct.
So, we just said, well, we'll play them instead of playing, because we would have played Northampton in the opening round, but it just made more sense for everybody. And, I mean, our overall goal, of course, is to get the kids out there, getting the reps and playing the baseball, I mean.
It's funny that you say that, because every single coach that I've talked to for every single team said the same thing. We're just glad the kids are playing. Yeah. Honestly, the playoff thing was really sort of, it's there, but it's not as important as the kids being able to play. How was the morale with the kids as far as just throughout the year being able to, when they got to the field, were they excited every night?
Awesome.
Yeah.
We've never had such a group of kids who wanted to practice as much as these kids wanted to practice. And that's cool as a coach, because we'd go into a game, at the end of the game, it'd be 95 degrees, they'd be sweating. And I'd say, okay, I'd like to do a practice tomorrow, and everybody'd be all excited for that. And everybody wants to still be there. Even right now, we're getting kids reaching out saying, hey, can I help with your younger team? Can we get in a fall ball? Can we keep playing games, finding places to play? And this year, I think, out of all the years we've been together coaching, has been the best morale year for the kids. They know they're lucky to be out there, and they really banded together, which was really cool to watch.
I have seen one thing that I thought was amazing this summer, and that was the morale of the kids. And I think it's because they realize that they're blessed to be able to play. And sometimes I think we take for granted how lucky we are to be able to do certain things in our lives. And when you get told that you can't leave your house and there's things that you can't do, it's almost like when we were kids. Let's just be straight up. We were told we couldn't do it, but guess what? I'm going to Finky's house and we're going to do it, all right? And now these kids were like, oh my God, we really can play? Well, we better sign up because we want to make sure we can get on the team.
Yeah, well, unfortunately it wasn't, with the parents and everybody involved, it wasn't, that's why we got off to such a slow start. I mean, we don't have a lot of kids up in our neck of the woods to recruit from.
No, you don't. You really don't.
We really have to work hard to beat the bushes to find the ball players. So.
Yeah, and not only beat the bushes, but also, let's be honest, summertime, a lot of these kids work, man.
Right.
They're hard workers. A lot of them work on the farm. It's a busy time up in the West County for a lot of these kids.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's, we ended up having to get some kids. We had 2 kids from Mahar playing with us just because of mutual connections between other players on the team. They played in dome soccer leagues together and stuff, and a few phone calls there, a few phone calls there, here and there, and we finally got our numbers, but, we still weren't able to run a Koufax team this year, which was a bit disheartening because, that's kind of our feeder program. So
Exactly. I look back at the feeder program and I'm looking at what these leagues are right now, and, we are still pretty lucky to have GMLB, which I've been on the board and I've been involved with for 25 years. And, to still be able to ride around that 180, 190 number is pretty good. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. We're at that number because of Northfield, Berniston, Greenfield, some of the kids that came over from Turner's. That's why we're being able to hit that number. We're not hitting that number like when Greenfield used to have 200 kids just from Greenfield. So we really rely on the community to help thrive GMLB. But the one thing that we've always worked well with is our local other teams, with New Gilbo, with Mohawk, with Frontier. And we've always tried to remember at the end of the day that we're still Franklin County. And let's be honest here, feeder programs is where it's at.
Without a doubt. I mean, we try to work really closely with our Little League and developing players and meeting with coaches and saying, listen, this is what we want. This is what the pitchers should be doing, hitters. So when they get the Koufax, it's not such a gigantic leap. And that's what we found in years past before we started working together was the gap from 6th grade to Koufax baseball or Babe Ruth at the time when you're facing 15-year-old pitchers who are throwing curveballs was huge. So we've tried to develop clinics and allowing our fall ball program to take those incoming 7th graders and get them used to seeing curveballs, faster speeds, a 90-foot diamond, and it's really helped. And that's why this year with Koufax, I think we're, like John said, it's a little disheartening because we've had some struggles in Koufax. There's no doubt about it. But it's a good start for those kids. And the kids we had this year in Mantle, we've had since Koufax.
Right.
Every single one of those players, the exception of maybe 1 or 2, we've had consistently. And that helps with the morale, that helps with their talent level, and that's been the cool part about it.
And it helps with the camaraderie too, as far as the team.
Absolutely.
I mean, with the group of kids we had this year, I mean, they were showing up like 2 hours early to a game just to get in extra batting practice.
We'd be doing field work, and all of a sudden we'd see these kids just trickling out, and we're looking at our watches going, well, I thought we had another hour to get the field ready. They'd be coming down, they're like, can we take batting practice? Yeah, go ahead.
I gotta tell you, that was one of the things I did when I coached. I used to say, listen, if you guys show up at 4:40, because we start games at 5:30, I said, if you come at 4:40, we can do soft tosses. And my kids were getting to a point where they saw how well they started to be able to improve in hitting. So they would literally say to their mom and say to their dad, I need a ride because Bobby C's waiting for me, But isn't it wonderful when you got it going so well that you know that they are looking forward to being at the field? And you guys were probably having your easiest time coaching this year because they all bought in right away, right?
I mean,
it was a tough start recruiting, but once you had them, you were able to keep them.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a pretty good coaches group this year too. We had Wade Bassett, and of course his son Ruben was on the team, and there was John Palmer, who was Roscoe's father, and Todd Dubriel, who, I gave him the equipment and let him drive around with the equipment this year because that used to be me. So it certainly made it so I could run on Finck Eastern time a little bit easier. So which is 15 minutes behind everybody else's. So.
And we had the mainstay, Bob Hines, still with us as well.
But I want to say one thing, guys. Your commitment to those kids will always be remembered, and that's why it's great to keep it going. Finky, for an example, with you working on the high school level too, all the kids love you. You got that.
Well, at least that's what they say to my face.
Well, but listen, man, and you've been supporting all their sports. When I go up there and we do games, me and Jeff will be up there for hoop season. Finky's up there watching the kids. Even though it's not your big sport or anything, you're still there supporting the kids. I say that about Dougie McLeod.
Yeah.
You have committed people. Billy Buck, you have committed people. Committed people is what makes it work. When we don't get the commitment from the adults, that's when we start seeing numbers totally slide down. And you're a younger guy. Let's talk about that for a minute. Have you noticed that if the parents aren't buying in, the kids suffer bad?
Oh yeah, it falls apart completely. We were talking just the other day at the end of our last game how long we've been working together as a group and how now I mean, I'm 24 years old.
Yeah.
I see kids who have now graduated college, and I'll see them out at a fair or just around town, and they look and go, oh, remember this game, or remember that, and remember when, Mom wouldn't bring me to that game, but I forced her to bring me to that game, and we won. And, that's really cool to see now that I'm kind of had kids forever now, and I'm seeing them excel and do what they want to do. But we've got this year especially, a group of committed parents, and in the future we can see some coming through that we're trying to recruit. One of our biggest things, we have our association meetings, is we try to find the parents that we know have been coaching in the Little League and grab them early and let them, our Koufax coach right now, Tom Moore, has been doing the younger kids for years and running that league. And he took the Koufax team that we kind of put together, and he's run with it. They're still going right now.
So. It's wonderful. Yeah. Another thing I love about your school is that everybody knows everybody. But let's be honest. The one school that screws Mohawk every year is the Franklin County Tech. And I will tell you right now, it's sad because what athletes you do have, it gets taken away. And I understand why they go there, and I understand what their purpose is, and it's a good purpose. But it really hurts athletics at Mohawk Trail Regional.
Yeah, I mean, the tech school has always, been a thing. I mean, the school choicing is another hurdle nowadays, because, we've had a few of kids that I've been involved with just through the baseball, and now all of a sudden their parents are deciding to go to another district, and they're going to come back and play with us during the summer, but during the scholastic year, it's going to be a hurdle as far as numbers for some of these team sports. So
I've noticed a huge hit in numbers, and I talked about this with Dougie when we had talked about how we've had to bring things together for football.
You're right. Yeah.
Guys, everyone's under the Greenfield football umbrella this year. We got 4 school districts in one. It's getting close. Where are we at right now as far as regionalization is concerned in Franklin County when it comes to sports?
I believe probably a lot of sports are going to stand on their own, just because, you don't need as many players, like track, Mohawk has historically always had outstanding track programs.
Listen,
so.
When you got Captain Joe running the show, you're all set. And that guy's going to be there till he's 100. So. We kid. He has a rock up there. So he really does.
And he deserves it. He works hard. So
he cares about all those kids. Yeah. Like I said, it brings back to what we talked about, where you have committed people. I look at Mohawk, you have committed people. I look at Tom Schuschnick at Greenfield High School.
Yeah.
He was my coach, okay? Yeah. He was there before I was even there. Now, I played in the early 80s, so you're talking, you're going back to the 70s for this guy, and he's still doing it today.
Yeah, he was there back when we were playing wiffle ball up in my backyard.
He was. Exactly. And I look and I say, that's a committed coach. I look at Dougie McLeod and all the years that he's put into football himself. A lot of years.
Yes.
He's made a commitment. The new guy on the block now for high school football that everybody loved, and unfortunately they don't have a program, but Chris LaPointe was like the guy that was able to take teams and be able to make something of them. Even with 20 kids, he could take 20 kids and make it look like they had a team of 35. That's what he was able to do. But that's because he was committed. I think what it comes down to is commitment. And if you are willing to buy into what a good coach can give, you can do well. And this is what I love about the certain things that we had this summer. You guys made the commitment for the kids. Kyle Phelps made the commitment and was willing to go and travel and play all those Springfield teams and everything down there in their area.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to talk to him to see how, the season has gone, him or Tommy.
Rusciano?
Yeah. I haven't seen them, obviously, because of everything, but I would be interested to see what their pitfalls were, and try to compare them to ours, because, it's, the one thing is the more things you compare, the better job you can do yourself. So
very true. And the other thing is too is he might want a couple of your players. to be able to come down the road. Down the road when the kids, I mean, look at Kyle's son. He was able to go into his freshman year of college and still be eligible because of his age. So if you got a kid who may be going to GCC and still wants to play baseball and falls into that window, that kid could still be able to go and play Legion ball.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have quite a few that are going to be like outside of our age parameters, and they're actually about a year and a half. We figure more.
Yeah.
So, hopefully.
Right. That's why I'm saying you guys are more like a feeder program to them. It's really all you guys in Franklin County because the Legion really sort of takes a little piece from all the schools.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, playing time, and sometimes if you're not one of the 9, you
I do
get
know
shelved.
That. I do know that,
so,
and that makes it very hard, especially when you're playing.
That's where we excel as far as getting kids out on the field and getting a more inclusive baseball experience. So
my brother Aaron
did
the same thing with Aaron coaching Koufax. Aaron really made sure that all those kids all got a lot of playing time. But I'll tell you, it worked because every kid all bought in, and they ended up with an undefeated season. I mean, they really had a good year, But you guys had a nice run going there, and right at the end. But I'm going to say something to you, though. What's it like to be able to know that you guys were going through a pitfall of mess at the beginning of March, knowing that the kids weren't going to be in school, they were canceling spring sports, the governor made all these promises, everybody got excited, then all these little towns around you, like Greenfield, decided, oh, well, our health department's not going to make a decision until July 2nd. So if you guys ended up having a Greenfield team involved, the question would be, when can Greenfield play? Or are they going to be able to play, but are they going to have to come and do all away games in the beginning until their town opens it up, and then we have to go on the road for the second half of the year because Greenfield couldn't get anybody on a field because they said no? What was that like, knowing that was going to happen?
I mean, we were in a similar case. I mean, at one point we had a team and we didn't really have clearance to to use the Mohawk fields because they were waiting on the Board of Health in Buckland. So, we ended up having to be a little bit proactive, and Tucker reached out to a few people to be able to kind of get the ball rolling. But, I, had multiple emails from Greg Voros before I got, a thumbs up to use the Mohawk fields. So,
well, Greenfield had the same problem because when they were told that they couldn't go on the field, they were able to go practice up at Pioneer because they opened it up in Northfield that they could practice. So they were going up there and they were working out up at Pioneer. And then finally, when they got the clearance, they made their way to be able to play at Beacon. And that's where they ended up having their home field. But it just goes to show you that it all sort of had to mesh together or it wasn't going to work.
Well, I mean, it comes down to the Brattleboro Northampton thing as far as, okay, Brattleboro can't go there, Northampton can't go there, but they can both go to Mohawk. So, it's,
and
sometimes you have to get creative as far as, making these things happen. So.
So let's talk about your team here. We have a few minutes here to talk about these guys. Let's start pitching.
Sean Davenport, he had an outstanding, improved year. I would say he was probably our most...
Especially in the pitching category.
Yes.
He was a guy, when we had our preseason meetings with our coaches, that was our biggest question mark, was pitching. We had a lot of kids who were kind of on the fringe. And we said, you know what, to get through this year, especially with pitch counts coming in, we're going to have to get creative. And Sean took the reins. And there was times that, he'd look at me, he goes, can I pitch in this game? And he'd mark it off on the calendar, a game that he wanted to win. And he came every single time he came to compete. He threw hard.
He threw strikes.
He threw a lot of strikes. And that's the kids who I coach in pitching. They know I have, one thing that I dislike, and that's walks. And the more kids he walks, you can sit next to me. And Sean embraced that. He was a leader when he was on the mound. We also had Liam O'Donnell, who was probably our close number 2. if not in the competition, also for number
I
one.
would say
from our-
1A.
Yeah, 1A
and 1B.
I mean, he is a finesse style pitcher. He does not blow you away, but he locates his pitches and he makes the beach ball approach on that high fastball up here that looks like a beach ball and it's coming in and it cuts right through it. Those are probably our top two. And then we had Sam Schreiber. He at times was a little bit up and down, but he knew it, and that was important.
Sam's a great kid.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to find a kid who works harder than Sam. So.
And that's what he did in the stretch. I mean, we had games on the stretch where we needed him, and he delivered. And then we had Jaden Moore, who even in our last game when we lost in the playoffs, he came in kind of a precarious spot and mowed everybody down and pitched scoreless baseball. And we kind of looked and we said, man, we really should have started him in that game.
No.
But, we had a lot of those kind of players who really stepped up and embraced the pitching role and did a really nice job.
And we got to work a few of our younger pitchers. Ben Thompson. He's been with us. Seems like forever now, but since he came in, he pitched on Koufax a little bit, and he seemed to step it up a little bit this year. And actually, Cam Lococo wasn't able to start participating with us till the end of the year because he had a hip injury. So he finally got to come in, but he was relegated to either second or third base, and we weren't able to get him much time on the field. But I look forward to getting him back on the mound at some point. At least through the fall here to try to catch up on some of the work. So.
Now, I noticed that you guys had like 3 or 4 kids that were really good hitters. Like they came and they were a big part of your offense that you guys had. Let's talk about some of your better, guys who were able to get the bat on the ball.
Well, I mean, there's Tyler Dubriel.
Oh yeah, he was in there every night. I saw his name every game.
Yeah, outstanding kid. Great attitude. Fantastic shortstop.
Good work ethic.
Good, yeah, very good. And the thing is, he's still on the younger side because he's just entering his junior year. So, and the athletic gifts that kid has is
amazing.
It's really true.
He's one of those kids that him and I kind of had a running joke throughout the season. He'd hit a line shot right at the third baseman or right in the center fielder, and just he couldn't hit it to the gap for a while, and he'd still put up numbers and a consistent batting average, but he'd look at me and he'd just smile because he knew I can't hit the ball any harder, but it's just about placement. And then you'd see the next kid hit a little flare behind the second baseman, and it's like, why can't that be me?
He gets the leaguer and gets a rib out of it too, and then this poor kid's hitting shots that are lasers, and the kid's right there, and he was able to protect himself and save it.
Tyler brings so many facets because once he gets on first base, it's almost like a double, because within a couple pitches he's going to be standing on second.
And Ruben Bassett is a consistent left-handed bat for us, and when he gets a hold of it, it goes. And he also showed me a lot this year at taking pitches. One thing that we try to work with kids is, breaking pitches on the outside part of the plate, going with those pitches. So as a left-handed batter, there's a few times where he took a curveball on the outside part of the plate and shot it to left field.
Yeah.
And he was a huge part. Sean Davenport as well. One of our kids who actually doesn't play scholastic baseball anymore. He does track and excels in it. But Cullen Brown is a phenomenal catcher and backstop defensively, but also he's one of those hitters who has a powerful, compact swing and can take a ball to the opposite field as well.
I'd rather have a kid be 8th or 9th batter as a catcher who's not a good hitter, and I want that glove all day.
Yep.
All right? I want that glove all day.
Cullen has both.
So if you can get a kid who can hit as a catcher and be able to do the job that they do, that's a home run. And that poor kid, let's be honest, it's been a hot summer, man.
Yeah.
It's brutal under that equipment.
Oh, yeah.
It must be brutal under there.
Yeah, but the thing is, we kept on trying to give him days off, and he kept on saying, "No, I want to play, so I want to catch."
That's just amazing.
So
what'd you feel about your league this year, competition-wise?
I honestly thought, there were some games that we ran away with and we dominated, and there were some games that we lost, and I wish I could forget about them because they were horrific. But competition-wise, and I think it showed towards the end of the season, it was an open playing field.
Yeah.
Frontier had our number all year long, and I think, they had a great team, a talented team, but for us, I think a lot of it was mental. We made a lot of mental mistakes. I think we kind of didn't handle things the way we should have. Brattleboro, like we talked about in the beginning, I mean, they were the most improved team. We saw them in that first playoff game, and they were, from game one when we played them the opening night of the season to that last game, night and day.
Yeah.
Northampton has always been a consistent team. They had a younger team this year, but at times they gave us some runs for our money. We had some close games against them as well, and Hatfield was always that team that you weren't quite sure what you were going to get when you got them, but they fought us very hard in a lot of games. So it's one of those things that we never went into a game thinking, oh, we got this. This is going to a guaranteed win.
The nice thing about the Hatfield team is, that's kind of one of the things that, Pioneer Valley Baseball League brings to you is these teams start out in Colfax and they kind of all progress together. And it's nice to see when they go from the phase from Colfax to Mantle.
Yep.
You're familiar with the kids, or you're familiar with the coaches. And you just get down to playing some good old-fashioned baseball, and
Love
it's really what we promote is just trying to do things right and play the game. So.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I used to drive up to Sears Street, and I'd drive up with my blue bomber from Greenfield, go over to Finck's, and we would have these big, huge wiffle ball tournaments, and we'd have a blast. And it was just a bunch of kids who loved to play, and we just went and played. And I think with everything that's gone on with COVID-19, these kids just wanted to get the hell out of the house so that they could play.
Well, I think the parents wanted out too.
Well,
so.
And you know what? A lot of the parents started to realize the safety was well done. And I think they felt good too.
Yes.
And we're seeing a lot of grandparents there. That's a bit of, oh, you were?
Yeah,
that's huge. That was a good question that I wanted to ask you guys. I had that on my radar what was it like? Because grandparents are like the best supporters of their grandkids. I was curious what their feel was for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Mohawk, the way the field is constructed up there and laid out, you're down back, but we basically cordoned off everything from the end of each bench around the backstop and, basically kept the general public out of that area, just for space for the players and everything else. But, I mean, we had people lined up going down the left field line along the edge of the woods.
Yeah, and the outfield, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. So.
And you know what I love about you guys over there at the school, though, is even when I was doing tournament reports and stuff, with me being crippled, you guys had the golf cart, and they would pick me up, take me right down, say, we'll bring it right back to your car, Bobby. I mean, just the treatment that people get is awesome. And it's funny because I look at all these kids, and I know them all, and they're all really, really good kids. And not only are they good kids, they're good students.
Yes.
These kids are smart kids.
Yeah.
So they're not only making a commitment to a team, they're making a commitment to their future. And a lot of them, if you look, a lot of these kids that are your really good players are also damn good students.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one thing, even coaching scholastically or even in this, you have to remind the kids that, you're not going to play baseball or basketball forever,
It's true.
At some point, they're going to tell you, you have to do something else now. So, but high school is very, very important as far as, putting in the effort.
I tell people that all the time. I say, listen, the chance for you to be able to go to college and be able to excel in sports is, believe it or not, and this is sad, 0.5%. So that means out of 100 kids, only 1/2 of a body out of that 100 is going to excel to have an okay career in college. I mean, that still is a pretty decent number, but you think about it, if you got 60 guys on a college football team and you happen to make it, that doesn't mean that you're going to play, but you made it, So
that's
you
why
have to think about that.
That's why you have to bite your tongue every once in a while with a few of the parents that you run into along the ways. But
well, that's because my kid's the best, and I can't believe you're taking this time away from my kid. He comes and works every day. Well, you know what? They all come to work every day, and sometimes you got to be able to figure out the situation of what the game is before you can sit there and criticize the coach, because it depends on what the game situation is. Now, if I'm getting beat by 10 runs and it's the 6th inning and my team is just flat, I'm going to throw some of the younger kids in there and I'm going to say, hey, these guys aren't playing. You need to get in there and show me something. And that's what I would do, you know? And then what that did for the other kids is say, wow, coach, he wasn't happy with us today. No. Now we get beat by 10 runs, you know? We're not the Boston Red Sox pitching staff, you know? I mean, it's, you know, we have to think about that. Now, Frontier had a really good year this year. Like you said, they did have your number. They did win it this year for Mickey Mantle.
Yep. Yeah, they actually, you know, got the first seed, so they got the bye. We were the second seed, ended up playing Brattleboro, and Northampton was the 5 seed, and they ended up playing Hatfield.
Yeah.
Because, so actually we got beat by Brattleboro 5-3 in a, you know, pretty close game. We didn't bring it that night, you know. So,
like you said, mental errors get you too.
Yeah, I think we had about 5-6 errors.
Too many, yeah.
Sounds like a guy that mentioned it all year long, and I saw it on all my reports. Tommy Brusciano said our junior Legion team was in a lot of games, and then we put ourselves out of games.
Right.
And it was all here.
Yeah.
It was not here. The kids did have it here. It was here that would get us in trouble, the mental mistakes. And that's exactly what happens with kids. We have to remember that because they are kids. They are going to make those mental breakdowns.
I mean, unfortunately, it put us behind the 8 ball because we would have enjoyed a second round bye. So then we ended up having to play against Hatfield. So we played a good game against them. Actually, I can't remember the score of that one, but you know, basically. So then we had to play. Who did we play? That was Friday night when we played
Northampton after Hatfield.
Was that the game that you lost on Saturday night?
No, that would have been.
Was that Brattleboro?
That was Frontier.
Oh, Frontier was
Frontier.
So Frontier was that Saturday when you guys went out on Saturday.
Right. Yeah.
That was for the Frontier team that took you out because you guys ran a double elimination.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way it's done is basically everybody has to play everybody before somebody plays somebody twice.
Gotcha. Because there's not enough people. That's what Aaron was running in with Koufax. Same thing. They played the same team. It seemed. Wait a minute, he just played this team.
Yeah.
Because the kids played each other like 4 times during the summer. Each team.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was like a 16-game schedule or 18-game schedule or something like that, and they ended up playing like every team was played like 4 times.
Right.
But the kids didn't care. They just wanted to play.
Yeah.
And just like you guys, you don't care. You just want to play. So let's talk about this for a second. Where did you guys feel as far as the beginning of fall sports in Franklin County? What is your feel of whether you feel that sports should go on?
Well, I'm still a little clouded as far as, you know, soccer at one point I heard was a level higher than, you know, they were kind of equal with football, and now all of a sudden soccer's being talked about. And of course, at one point they had field hockey on less of a risk than soccer.
And now they moved that on the same level.
Yeah. So
and volleyball too, because of them being so close.
Right.
And even McDonald's said that they were trying to figure out a way to maybe take one of their players off and go with one less player on each side for volleyball. My point is, guys, there's so much uncertainty right now.
There is.
That I always say this, and I even go and put stuff on Facebook about all the MIAA stuff that comes out, and I'm like, yeah, it's a great concept, but is it going to be fulfilled? We're sitting here right now. Today is the 25th of August. Normally, all sports have already started practice right now. Normally, this would be normal fall rock and roll sports right now. And games starting, believe it or not, next week, really. They'd start getting into the flow. We're sitting here right now on the 25th of August, and we all have no clue what's going on, guys. We have nothing.
Yeah, well, of course, you know, Mahar is obviously...
What a shame.
It's pretty settled over there, I guess. But,
what a shame. I mean, that hurt.
Yeah.
That override really hurt the sports program over there. And they have pretty good sports.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, we have a couple of the kids on our teams. So
because they're devastated.
Yeah. So
it's... You know, and I mean, you look at Softic over there, who's done an amazing job with the boys basketball program, and even, Larry Fisher for the girls. They got to be. Basketball's been huge there.
Yeah,
it's
no,
going to be
it's
devastating.
kind of a storied program. I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, they've had some really good seasons.
It's true. And they've gone to the cage many times, both those teams.
Both boys and girls.
Exactly.
I mean, I can remember Jill Valley used to play over there, and she was an incredible basketball player. She played on my daughter's AAU team, and she was. But they've had a lot of success in baskball, and now a lot of that has just disappeared. So,
it has.
But as far as fall sports coming up, the one thing I do know is our Western Mass Fall Baseball League that we normally, have tried to do in the past. That's already been canceled. So, we were looking forward to trying to do a fall season this year with all the uncertainty, but that's not going to happen. So,
will you be able to bring a bunch of kids over to play in the Fall Ball League for Babe Ruth? Is Joe Mignalt putting something together for Babe Ruth?
Joe doesn't really put that together. That's done through Westfield.
That's through Westfield that does that?
Dan Welsh, that's who Joe's.
That's his contact person to get everything together?
Dan's the one who kind of organizes it all.
Because I know for years and years, Mohawk used to bring their own team down into Babe Ruth, and even Frontier used to bring a team in, and Turner's would bring a team in, and you guys sort of like had your own little thing going over at Babe Ruth.
Yeah, well, back when Tucker played, I was his coach, and we had our own Babe Ruth up in the hills, and it just slowly dwindled. So then we played a few years with Franklin County Babe Ruth, and then that started dwindling, and then the Koufax opportunity popped up.
Aaron loves Koufax. I'll tell you right now, my brother will tell you, he thinks Koufax is great for the kids.
It was a few less rules as far as, and probably a hair on the, less expensive side per player, to get involved with the Koufax as compared to the Babe Ruth.
Right.
Developmentally, it makes sense too. That's the big thing is, like I said in the beginning, we found in Babe Ruth where you got kids who are just coming into 7th grade facing kids are probably playing JV and maybe on varsity soon. It's just striking out every time. Now it gives us a better feeder program. And I'm a little bit younger in the age bracket, good transition to Mantle, and then beyond, wherever kids decide to go from there. We've noticed a big difference.
Because Babe Ruth goes up to like 15, So,
correct.
When you have those younger 13-year-olds, or in some cases even 12-year-olds coming in, then they're facing a 15-year-old.
Well, that was the thing that we had to make that, we had to tell the kids, listen, you're 12, but you're the young guy who has a chance, because Little League's over. You just exited GMLB as a 12-year-old in the beginning of July, but fall ball's coming up, and if you want to play, Mr. Mignalt's going to let you kids be able to come play fall ball. But just remember, you're going to be going up against a couple kids that can throw a little heat, and you're not throwing from the diamond that you were throwing in, 50, 70 even our 50, 70 field isn't the same as when you're dealing with 90 feet, And those poor kids trying to get that over there with a little bit of a zip from third over to first can be tough,
Well, of course, not having the scholastic sports this year, a lot of these kids missed out on their first year of middle school baseball, which
that's very true.
Bob Hines does a great job up at Mohawk as far as getting those kids acclimated to a 90-foot diamond. Of course, Bob was around when they invented baseball, so
exactly, it's true. It's funny because I remember I always say Coach Johnson, he was there forever, but Bud, right? Bud Johnson was Coach Bud was there forever. You got Tommy Shusnick there forever. You got Hine. You got these guys. You had Colo over at Vic Colo over at Mahar. All these old guys. But I'm going to tell you something. At the end of the day, they're the guys that were like Joe Chadwick, old school. Always there early, always the last to leave.
Yeah.
Always, right?
Yeah.
How fortunate are we to be able to do that? How fortunate are we to be able to have such guys who have made a commitment for so long in Franklin County? We're lucky, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, you look at Frontier, you know, Frontier Athletics to me is the core of all high schools for sports. If you look at all of their sports teams and how they can still be able to perform with athletes going to different types of a sport and have all those teams still succeed, blows me away. Volleyball, that girls team, now think about this. They won 15 straight years of Western Mass titles in a row. Sean McDonald didn't have the same girls for 15 years. He had to recycle all those girls every year to be able to do what he did. You look at Missy Phillips in running the field hockey program, okay?
Yeah.
Where Tommy Schusnick's daughter, Erin Thayer, is at Greenfield. They put the time in, and those teams are winners. You look at the golf team and Billy Fitzpatrick down there at Frontier. They have a great golf team down there. But it's all about these people that make the commitment. Coaching is everything. And I still believe it to this day that the teams that struggle is because they don't have good coaching.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have what you have, and you have to make the best of it. And that is just the way the world goes. We all go through cycles, and we've had some really great teams and we've had some really poor teams, right? But at the end of the day, you have to look at like Brattleboro. This is where they started at the beginning of this season, and look where they ended up at the end. And you got to say, now that is a group of kids who got better. And that is every coach's dream, is to see your team improve.
I mean, you know, and that's something that I learned from Coach Bill Buck, as far as, which actually you played for Bill, and Bill puts a structure out there, and year in and year out, these kids, the ones who played for him the year before, know exactly what he expects, and he puts together some real good practice plans where there's not much downtime. He would always say baseball activities, and
we'd always be doing something. And that's what we try to implement in the summer too, is, we get our group of kids before the season, we have a coaches meeting, and we go down the list and we say, okay, this kid needs to work on being a pitcher this year, playing third base. And every practice we try to instill that. So, because you never know, somebody could get hurt, vacation time, sick, or whatever it is. And we always try in our program, the kids know it as fundamentals. You throw strikes, you put the ball in play, you don't make mental mistakes. And the kids know that. I'll go into a game and say, okay, what do I expect? And they'll list off those three things. It could be a kid, his first year coming in, he already knows it, or a kid who was in his last year. I'll say, all right, guys, what are the three things we're not going to do today? We're not going to walk people, we're not going to strike out, we're not going to make mental errors. And I said, okay, here we go. Hit the field, let's do it. And the kids know that, and I think that's important, and it goes a long way. Kids who I've had 5 years ago will still say that. Hey, remember that when I walked that kid and you pulled me? And I said, yeah, I did, actually. I don't put up with it, yeah.
I told my wife one day, I said, when you coach in Little League, when you're coaching 10, 11, and 12-year-olds, or even 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, what you want to teach them to do is to keep the ball in play. So that's what the goal is. The goal is to get the ball in play and not chase bad pitches. So what I used to do is I used to call it the 3-strike program, which means that you are going to get up, and if you took a rotten swing, you got 2 more chances. I always say, all right, you got 2 more chances, let's go. That's why they give you 3 strikes, come on, And so I'd sit there at the beginning of a game and I'd be like, hey, I said, what are we not going to do today? And they said, we're not going to chase bad pitches. And I said, that's right, because guys, we're going to lose games if we face bad pitching, because you're going to give a bad pitcher a free ride. Because every time you go and swing at one of his garbage pitches, then you are, I'm going to say girls too, because we got the Gilbert girl that played in our league who was just as good as all the guys. I'm just saying, she was legit, all right? But she was legit, and she was mowing people down left and right, and she's legit. And she's from your neck of the woods, so yeah. But the bottom line is that you just want to make sure you reiterate after you get done at the end of the game and say, why did we lose today? Or why did we win today? Well, we won today because we didn't do this, this, and this wrong. Okay, why did we lose? Well, we did this, this, and this. And when they're younger, that's the real key, is just to instill the fact that they need to know what's right, what's wrong. When they get to you, Then if they make the mental mistakes, that's where you can be a little harder. At my level, I got to sort of just keep them to sort of like to play,
Yeah.
But in your level, you need to sort of say, listen, I got 12 guys over here, and if you can't do your job, I got to take you out. And you can get away with that, no problem, because that's your job,
You like to think you
no,
can.
but really, I really feel that way, But at the end of the day, we need to also remember that these kids are kids. And some of these coaches out there, they really have blown it for a lot of these kids at a younger level. And that is why I get mad when I have to look at both of you guys and say, I'm sorry for bad coaching, because bad coaching made these kids not want to come back. And as much as we know that they tried to do a good thing, they really didn't. They really hurt the kid in the end. Yeah. But they were the volunteer that was available, and we had no one to do it, and it didn't work out. But now, all those kids that had a bad experience don't want to come back, and that really rots. Because how many kids that really were good athletes decided that they didn't want to play because of their bad experience when they were younger? You'll never know, because you didn't have them. It's a great experience to learn in life. It really is. So I always tell people all the time, coaching at a younger level is so damn important.
Well, you have to reassess what you're doing all the time. Me and Tucker, even back when he was playing for me, I used to talk to him quite a bit, and
yeah,
you have to reassess after every game as far as things that you feel like you're doing right, things that you feel like you're doing wrong. Why am I not reaching so-and-so the same way that I'm reaching, this kid over here? And,
yep.
And there's just so many facets to it. And
baseball is one of the toughest games to do. And it's tough because kids don't realize this, but there's always a place to be on every play.
Yes.
But every kid doesn't realize that. Because when they're younger, they pick daisies in right field, or they are looking and talking to their friend over at the other field, or you know what I'm saying? They really are, And then you get the kids who are really focused, and they're the ones that really excel, and they're the ones that know what to do. They know how to back up. They know how to do what they're supposed to do. But to try to get 9 people at that age to do the same thing, that is unbelievably hard. Unbelievably hard. But with you guys, you can get 9 guys at your age to be able to do that. You can get 9 focused kids at the age level that you coach.
You still can't get them to move on every play, though.
That's because they're lazy.
Yeah,
and we call that lazy, though, John, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we call that being a lazy. Why weren't you there? You know that that's where you're supposed to be, and you weren't there. And then they go back and they put their head down, they sulk, and then they stand out in the field. But you got to call it out, because now the next time the catcher wants to go throw a ball, and if he knows he overthrows and you're not going to be there, that just rolled all the way to the fence.
Right.
And the guy from first might have scored all the way from first.
Well,
I'm just serious.
That's one of the things that I like to do is whenever I see a kid backing up, it doesn't matter about the play. It'll be a great play, whatever, but I'll always call out the kid that's backing them up.
Right.
It's like, because 9 out of 10 times it doesn't matter if you're there, but it's that 10th time or
the 10th time that ends up being the run that ended up costing you the game at the end of the day, and you go, oh my gosh, can you believe this happened?
But that's one of the things that I've always tried to get out of my kids is there's some place to be on every play. So, which is, one of the things that Brattleboro did well. Me and Tucker were talking when we were watching their game the other day against Frontier, and at one point they had a pickle between second and third, and next thing you know, the left fielder and right fielder, the center fielder and left fielder are coming in,
nice
to kind of get involved in the play, and I'm kind of like, oh, that's cool, kids that want to move. So
and by them doing that, you were able to have a guy that literally got to stay on third base because the other guys were taking care of the business for you. And that's if you can get out of a pickle in the pros, you're pretty special, because they get it's almost 100% they always get you. That's because they know exactly what to do. Yep. And if you can get that from your kids, it's the same. I'm going to talk to you for a second before I wrap up our show, because I'm going to use you as a great example. You're 24. Yep. Sports in Franklin County, when you started, sports in Franklin County in 2020. Let's talk.
Completely different. Him and I have actually had this conversation many times.
Okay.
This isn't the first I've had this conversation.
All right.
When I started, especially baseball has always been my main sport, so I'll speak to that. Baseball, when I started, we would be playing Greenfield, and I remember, batting against Garrett Hudson. And if you were to get a hit against Garrett Hudson, I mean, you felt like the MVP of the year.
He was great.
And watching that and knowing those pitchers would throw breaking pitches, heat, strikes, defensively, all the plays were getting made. You weren't getting on base on an error, rarely. People were making plays, fundamentally sound baseball. And now, I went and watched one of their games. I won't talk about who it was, but I went and watched it from a distance. And I saw errors and this, that, and the other thing. Pitchers not throwing strikes. And I said, what is this? And I think going back to the point that you echoed, a lot of it is coaching and fundamentals and kids that don't want to play summer baseball. I tell the kids all the time, I used to play soccer in the fall. Then I'd go to fall baseball after that. I'd get home at 8 o'clock. I'd be up, go to school, same thing the next day. Playing those summer leagues and getting those extra reps helped me a lot. And I just hope that kids again start to get in that cycle, because we see so many good athletes who don't play summer baseball, and it hurts them in the long run. You see those fringe players who put in that extra effort, they're the ones that succeed in the long run. But in all sports I've seen it. I remember just watching football as just a fan of Mohawk and seeing the difference in football then and now. And I wouldn't say so much it's the talent of the kids, but I think a lot of it has to do with effort. I really think that's a huge thing. And with our kids, that's what we tell them all the time. Effort goes a long way. We see effort, we recognize effort, we not vocalize it. But that's huge, especially nowadays.
Well, I'm going to be a little biased, and I'm not sure how close you are to this guy's age. Maybe you're probably a few years younger than him, but I was a big Matty Z fan, man.
Yeah, a couple years younger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I tell you what? That kid gave you 150, 200% every play, because Matty Z wanted to succeed. Matty Z, you're his enemy, man, on the football. I love that kid. That kid was one of the finest kids to watch play. Hardcore player, you know? And if you really look at him, that's a smash mouth football player right there. And he put the effort in. Now, who are the kids that you played with now? You think about 24. Who are you with?
So my class, ahead of me, you would have had Ryan Spitzer, you would have had Ryan Pease, you would have had Alex Bunton, Connor Maloney, Mark Buck, Liam DeBlatier. He would have been a year younger than me. He would have been in your son's class, Levin Finck. That would have been kind of my group in that area. Javi Morales, all of them.
It was a special group at Mohawk, and I imagine you might have been a kid then. But do you remember the days of the Ed Carter and that group of basketball players back in the day?
Only hearing about it. But
hearing about it. Me and Finky got to see it live. That's when you went to the high school, and you better get there at 6:15 or you weren't getting a seat. That gym was rocking every night, every single night. And that's when John Hickey was a coach, too.
Right.
And you could hear that guy over a crowd of a full house going after these kids. But I'll tell you what, want to talk about commitment, want to talk about achievement. Buck's kid. Those guys were excellent. And
I remember the days of John being athletic director up there, and he was the first one there in the morning and the last one to leave.
Every night.
Every night. It was so much more than just his job. He had a passion for it. So.
He did, and he loved that community too.
Yes, he did. He did.
And I got to tell you, I was really disappointed when they decided to let him go. And I know a lot of other people that were too. And all the locals even said to me, "This isn't right, man." And I really feel that if you look back at the commitment that was made, it was made amongst parents, students, and coaches. Everyone worked together. And that is what you still got to hope for today. I know it's a lot different, because I know that our biggest problem that I have, and I'm going to be honest with you, is the problem of not having two parents in a family. Unfortunately. I had a lot of single moms that were bringing their kids to the games, and a lot of them didn't really know a lot about what was going on, and we had to sort of explain a lot of stuff to them. And that was always one of the hardest things, is that I understood where they were coming from, because they wanted their kid to play. And some of their kids were really good athletes too. So I just need to make sure that they were going to get there.
Wow.
Is mom going to continue to keep bringing you? Because
when I used to do Little League, I used to have an extra uniform just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you never knew what kid was going to show up. So
Yep.
You had to have that invisible kid that you were all set to outfit.
Isn't it the truth, huh?
You didn't know who it was going to be every night. But,
So you and I sort of go through the same thing of what we went through when we were doing the youth sports. You know, what was it like for you when you were going through the ranks of Little League and everything back in your day?
Well, I love Little League going through it. We had actually a pretty good team. John and I have a lot of hidden bias going back and forth here from the old playoff days when I played. He coached and I played with his kids. So there's a lot of good moments. But
my son's just a year, not even a year younger.
Right,
we're pretty much the same age. So we used to play each other in Little League, and I used to remember him coaching. And we talk about some things, kind of off the camera that happened in those times that were great. But like I said earlier, it's like we always wanted to be there, whether in your backyard like you guys used to do. We used to play wiffle ball all the time, or meet up to just throw the baseball around and hang out. So we did that. I went through. I played Little League. I played Babe Ruth.
You actually coached Little League when you were in high school.
Yeah. So I started.
How many games did you get thrown out of that year?
Only one, and I'm still mad about it because I didn't do anything.
I did it for many years. Never got thrown out.
Yeah, well, it's special. Yeah. But I started coaching Little League when I was, I want to say, a sophomore in high school. I started coaching.
I was 18. I was 18 when I started, and then my daughter went through girls softball, so I had to adjust from Little League over to softball because she loved to play softball.
Yeah, and then I've coached everything from Little League, Babe Ruth, Koufax, Mantle, and then I've also coached varsity fall baseball, and coached some of the older kids at a varsity level, at a high level. And
good for you.
It's been great, and I think my favorite, honestly, is the older kids. Just kind of developing a rapport with them. I tell the kids all the time that they all have my number. They can text me regardless, baseball or not, and if they need any help or have a conversation with anything. So it's been great. We've been very lucky to do what we do.
I mean, we like to promote, a lot of leadership as far as, the older kids of the team. I mean, like back, when we had Sam Babala playing for us, Sam was a great kid.
And then he ended up at the tech school.
Yeah, well, I mean, but he wasn't.
But I'm just saying,
he wasn't really from our neck of the woods to start out with. Right. He was
nice kid.
Just a great leader on the team, and
Yeah. Well, guys, our hour's up, but I'm going to tell you what. It was a great hour because we had a chance to sort of give people an idea of what it's been like to be able to get out there this summer. A little bit about how things have changed, about where people's minds are going into fall sports, and most importantly, are we being able to get kids to come out and play? The Hilltowns was able to field the team. It was a successful year for you guys, and you guys made it fun. And I just want to say thank you for coming down. It really means a lot when we can get the guests to come on and sort of speak about what is really happening out there. And the best part about this whole thing is that you guys are what's holding it together. You're the mold because you're the coaches that are making the commitment, and I want to say thank you to both of you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, well, that's going to wrap things up for the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. We'll do it again next week. Next week, we have two players from the Greenfield Koufax team. And Big Hugh Syhowski, and Jackson Campbell are going to join me, and we'll get together with them next week. And I want to say once again a big thank you to Albert Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield, also by the Four Leaf Clover Restaurant, routes 5 and 10, right there in Berniston, and by Denny's Pantry on Berniston Road in Greenfield. For John Finck and my buddy Tucker, yes, the young, good-looking guy, and for my wonderful producer, Philippe Simone, I'm Bobby C., thanking you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for watching the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report on GCTV. Catch a game and be sure to join us next time for more sports and fun.